Hi, friends. Welcome back to today's episode of Life with Loverly. You guys asked and we listened. Today on the show, we have the one and only Rachel Cruze. You may know Rachel as the daughter of financial guru Dave Ramsey, but let me tell you, Rachel is one of the girlies. She loves to shop and is a self-proclaimed spender at heart, which I find makes her viewpoints and perspective on money and budgeting so much more relatable. She even had on a few pieces in today's interview that she snagged for my LTK page. So don't worry if money isn't your thing, but you should put some more intention around it. Today's episode is here to give you a warm hug along with a little kick in the pants, but cute pants, that is. Between fashion and funds, I love teaming up with Rachel on this conversation. We are chatting about 3 steps on where to begin with budgeting and how to obtain more freedom, not restriction, in your life. The clothing items she loves to invest in most, from what's trendy to her favorite 2-piece set, and tangible ways to save money this season. I personally can't wait to try out some of these tips. As a Ramsey personality and certified financial coach, Rachel is guiding others out of debt and into financial freedom. And this conversation is no different. I love the tangibility of her money saving home cleaning solution recipe, but I also really appreciate how she gives us the pep talk we all need to eliminate shame around money mindsets. You'll hear in this episode that Rachel spoke about the app she uses, Every Dollar, to help keep her on budget. Her team has generously offered a promo code for 6 months of the premium plan absolutely free. So check out the episode notes for all of the info and sign up details. I hope you guys enjoy this conversation as much as I did. Here's my conversation with Rachel Cruze. Hi, friends. Welcome back to Life with Loverly. I am so excited to have Rachel Cruze on with me today. Rachel, how are you?
I'm doing so good, Brittany. I'm so excited to be here. I love you so much. I know you know that because I feel like I just talk about you all the time. But especially when it comes to clothes, I'm like, Loverly Gray is who I go to for fashion. So
you are so sweet. Thank you so much for saying that. It's funny. I reshared something that you posted the other day, and it was you had on an Amazon set that I talked about, and then these cute shoes. And a few of my followers were like, "You have to get Rachel on the podcast. That would be such a great matchup." And I was like, well, guess what? She's coming.
Little do you know. I know. And I have the shoes on too, Brittany. And the Amazon pants. I have more pants. And I got my Anthro shoes.
What do you think about the shoes? Do you love them?
I do. I love them. I'll be honest. I think this may be like my second or third time wearing them because it's been so hot in Nashville. So like closed-toed shoes, I'm just like, oh, I just wear sandals most of the time.
No, I know.
But they're adorable and they're comfortable. They're great.
And they were on sale. So it's always
I'm telling you, I'm going out of town this weekend and you post the Amazon set for travel. I was like, I'll buy that for the plane. And then you posted like the one sleeve shirt. I'm like, I'll wear that. Everything I'm wearing on my trip.
Great. So you're going to have to text me pictures. I was telling Elizabeth before this, I was like, I love when people show me like pictures of them wearing the outfits. So please send them my way. I think that's so much fun. Well, I'm really excited for our conversation today. I think there are so many parts of money and fashion and budgeting that it's just going to be great to talk and get your expertise on the topics. So let's hop right into it. I kind of want to start, like maybe go back a little bit and tell us a little bit about how money conversations looked for you growing up.
Yes, that's probably a little bit of the unique part of just my story is because my dad's job was to talk about money all the time. Yeah. So people just assume growing up as Dave Ramsey's daughter that like we were like a money obsessed family and everything revolved around money. You know, we had like mutual fund birthday parties and like everything had to be like themed money. And thankfully that was not the case. They were very, very well balanced in it, but they did talk about a topic that, you know, some parents, they don't like to talk about. It's very secretive or it's very shameful for parents. You know, for a lot of parents, they feel like, oh my gosh, I'm terrible at money. So who am I to teach my kids? You know, so I understand the attitude of why people are cautious around it, but mom and dad, they just, dove right in. So, I mean, it was everything from like, you know, we never were given an allowance as kids. We were always on commission. So you work, you get paid. You don't work, you don't get paid. And that's how I learned that's where money comes from. And you give it, you save it, you spend it. And so that was talked about. And then even the heart's more emotional side of money, from gratitude and contentment, and like, what does money do to us emotionally, spiritually, all of that? What role does it play? So, I mean, obviously that was probably later in life when those conversations were going on, but they really, they did. And Brittany too, like my parents, they filed for bankruptcy the year I was born. And so for them, there was this like charge of, we don't want our kids to go through what we went through, because it was so much pain and embarrassment and terrible. So I think part of their motivation in that for teaching us and talking about it was so that we could avoid, some of the mistakes that they made.
Yeah. It's interesting just hearing you say some of those things. I think back to my childhood and like what money conversations we had. And it was always like, you need to work for the money that you're getting. We're not just going to give you money. If you want to do something, like when I was in high school, I would always be like, Dad, I really want to get my nails done. That was like when you could get acrylic nails. Do you remember that for like $20?
Like French manicures all the time.
Yes. Like why I did that, I don't know. But I would always be like, can I have some money to get my nails done? And he would be like, well, here's a list of things that I need done around the house, or you can come and help me do, and then I'll give you $20. And I was always like, oh, come on, can't I just like have the $20? But I look back now and I'm like, there's so many things that I feel like I work really hard for. And then like, this is the payoff.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's so interesting just because not everybody grows up even having these conversations with their families.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Again, I think it's a topic that parents, I don't even know if they know how to navigate. And so they naturally are just more cautious. But like you said too, I'm like, there's such helpful things with our kids in all sides of parenting, right? Every area of life. But with money, it's like this subconscious way of knowing how it works that you almost don't even realize you're learning it. And then when you're in adulthood, it's not necessarily a perfect transition, but probably a smoother transition than kind of this like slap in the face of reality of like, wait, bills are how much, or like cable costs what? I have to pay for my cell phone. There's insurance, all these areas. That's very overwhelming in life. And so when some of that is kind of integrated in, I think it's helpful for sure.
It's a little bit easier for sure. Do you remember what the first thing that you spent your own money on as a child was?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm the spender of the kids. So I have an older sister and a younger brother, and they're much more savers. They lean more savers than I. And still to this day, Brittany, I'm like, I'm a spender. I'm a natural spender. My husband's a saver. So usually opposites attract, even in marriage. So I was always spending. And I remember probably one of my earliest memories, we had Opryland in Nashville, and it used to be a theme park back when we were kids, and now it's a mall. But I remember going, there was all these like kind of carnival games, like a theme park game. And I remember taking my money and I was like, oh, I want to play. And I lost everything in like the first 2 minutes I entered the park. Cause I just was like, I'm like a gambler. I'm like, next time I'll win. I'll win next time. I'll win next time. And I remember turning mom and dad and I'm like, I need more money. Like, give me, I need more money.
We got to keep going.
Yeah, I got to win. And I remember they were like, Rachel, it's gone. You did it. Now we got to move on and do something else. And it was just this like defeating moment. And again, I was probably kindergarten. I was really young. So they could have totally given me another $5 or whatever. But even that understanding like, oh, money has limits. It has boundaries to it. Right. And so even that, they weren't always that legalistic, but I do remember that. So I hate to say it, but was it a carnival game at Opryland? That's maybe where I spent some of my first money.
You probably learned some lessons that you didn't even know you were learning.
I know
when that was happening.
That's
so funny. I will never forget this. My parents, when I turned 16, I wanted to get a job, and for my birthday that year, they gave me $1,600. And they said that my dad was like, I'm going to take you to open up a bank account, and you are going to use, there's 1,200 of this is for 100 of goes to each month of the upcoming year. So like my birthday's in September. So from now until next September, I want you to have like per month. And then the 300 was kind of like the extra, just like fun money, birthday kind of like money. And all of that was for like, if I wanted something that wasn't a necessity, like I could pull from there, but I was also really wanted a job. So I needed a checking account. And I remember going to like Target or Walmart or somewhere with my mom, and I like had some things in the cart and I like put them up on the like conveyor belt with her things. And there was like stuff she would have normally bought me before. And she was like, you can separate those out and that you're going to pay for this with your money now. You just got all this money and this is, and I was just like, excuse me? Like, I was like, what do you mean? That you always buy me a shirt or whatever in Target. And she was like, yes, but you need to learn like how much stuff really costs. And like, this is, we're going to, and then I remember being like, okay, well, I don't actually want this if I have to buy it myself.
Totally. Yes.
You know, but it was like, I still remember the feeling of just like, what? I have to spend my own money on this
right in Target?
That's what I felt like. But then it was so great for me to start figuring out like, do I really need that? Or is that just a want? And then of course they were buying me like the necessities that I needed.
Totally. Yes.
But I feel like I look back and I'm like, am I going to do that to my kids when they get to be a certain age? You know, these things that I'm like, I'm never going to do. I'm like, maybe we will do that.
Right.
You know?
Totally. Oh yeah. I had the whole checking account thing and they put money in at the first of every month. And I bounced 3 checks like the second month I had my account at Hollister. So just think about it for a second. I wrote checks at Hollister as like a 15-year-old. I'm like, I don't even know who I am. But yeah, spent too much there, was not good at adding up what I had. But it goes to show though, and I think you're exactly right. It makes you think twice of like, oh, if this was just an assumed purchase, then I don't have any skin in the game. Don't really need much emotional buy-in. It's just a shirt. And then when it's when it's your own money and you're having to like choose and actually make choices of it, it's like, okay, do I really want that? I don't know. So that's so good. I love that.
It was so, the emotional feelings I got from that, I think back and I'm like, oh, I'm getting abandoned.
The trauma.
Yeah, seriously. Okay, so I want to talk about our overlap and just of our expertise of fashion and funds. But I really want to talk about the freedom a budget can provide. I'm not excellent with a budget. I will just go ahead and say that. And I know
no shame.
You've already mentioned being a natural spender, which I love. But when was the first time you saw freedom in putting together a budget?
Yes. So budgeting was one of those things, again, mom and dad, they talked about, and with our checking account, I mean, we had to take our sheets that were mailed to us from the bank and reconcile it on Quicken, like on our home computer. It was like the whole thing. And I remember, I hated it. I'm like, I'm just not a detailed person. And I don't know, it just was stressing me out. And so I kind of lived with this idea of budgeting because of kind of probably that experience, honestly, of like, oh, budget's not fun. A budget means that you have to be cheap. That means, you can't go and enjoy nice things. A budget is restrictive. You can't, I had all these ideas of what a budget was because as a spender, that's what it felt like.
Yeah.
And so I remember, after college, got married. We were young, Winston and I remember about 4 months into marriage, he was like, babe, I think we need to start budgeting. And I was like, ugh. I was like, you're one of those.
Not you
Gross.
too.
No, we're just having fun, And I remember we did our first budget and we did it for probably, consistently, probably that first year or two of marriage. And I did it. It was fine. Like I knew we probably should all of it. But I'll tell you, when we went to Miami on a trip before kids. And I remember we were on the plane flying from Nashville to Miami. And he said to me on the plane, Winston, my husband, he was like, babe, I don't want you to have to worry about the budget. Don't think about it. We have kind of our number that we have set of what we're going to spend. But like, I'll just like kind of keep up with the math and all that. Just have freedom and go and spend. And I was like, you're telling me I can just spend money and you'll come in if it's like getting too crazy, but I don't even have to think. And I kissed him and I was like, I'm living in my strengths. Like this is my strength. Let me fly and be free. And so I remember we checked in at the hotel. We went down to the pool and we were going to order like drinks and snacks, and get the day going. And I remember like ordering, drinks and snacks, all of this. And Brittany, I had this like moment, this weird moment where I was like, wait, how I want to know how much those were, because I want to know, like, am I spending too much right here? Like when we first get to the hotel, that in 2 dinners, we're going to be like, oh, we don't have that much. So we have to go somewhere cheaper, or we can't get an appetizer at dinner later that night. Like I started having this moment of like, oh my gosh, I don't have this freedom that I thought I was going to. And I told Winston, sitting at the pool chairs in Miami, I was like, can we just just write down the budget? Like I want to see the numbers and how much I can spend on pool snacks to like have the freedom to enjoy it, because I found myself not being able to enjoy it. And that was really the moment for me where I realized like, okay, a budget does not limit my freedom. A budget actually gives me freedom. It gives me permission to spend. It allows me to go and enjoy life without any guilt or shame or questioning, like, oh, should we have put this money somewhere else? Is everything else okay? Like all of those questions are answered when you have a plan. And so I kind of want to, take the word budgeting, that's such like a negative, the B word. It's like, oh my gosh, no one wants to talk about it. But actually say, no, it can give you such this level of freedom because you're actually in control of your money. And I think that's one of the biggest money mistakes people make, is that they're not intentional with their money. They get paid, they live their lives, they get paid again, they live their lives. And then they look up, and it's been 20 years of working and they think, oh my gosh, I don't have what I want to show for my money because I've just been spending and not knowing where it's going. So having purpose with it is really what the budget is. So I have a clothing line item, Brittany. And it's great. And the dollar amount Winston and I agree on, and I get to go. And when you post things, I click right through to like to know it and buy it.
You're good
and
to go. It's so funny because I feel like I always wanted to like capitalize on if I had $50. For some reason, when I was growing up, I was always like, well, I could get 1 shirt, or I could get 3 shirts off the sale rack. And to me, there was like this like emotional, like to having like a few more things felt like, oh, I have more options, which I wouldn't have if I just had bought one thing. But sometimes with a budget, it feels like they're so like limiting, but it's really not if you kind of do it the right way.
Totally. Yeah. And it's your mindset, because it does give you, a limit and a boundary. We can't just go spend and spend.
Right.
But also, you can be purposeful. And the great thing about a budget is it's yours. Like personal finance, it's personal, which means, if you get halfway through the month and let's just pretend you spent all your clothing money and you're like, man, I really want more. And you're like, okay, I could take some money from out to eat because we're not going out to eat that much. And I can move some of that down. You can rearrange it, right? And let it work with you in your life. But it does cause kind of a hard stop where it's like, you're not in Congress. You can't just go and just like print a bunch of money and spend it all the time, right? There's a limit. And that's a good thing. That's a healthy thing. But also that limit within your income, you get to decide what it is within your paycheck. So that's the other great thing.
Yeah. It's so interesting. My husband and we are in the process of doing a massive renovation on this house, and we're going to be moving next year, but we're pretty much have like a construction budget. And there's some things we're having to shift around right now. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, so where's the tree? Where's the tree that we just go get the money from? Because like, this isn't working. What are we going to do? And he's like, we have to like take something away from, and add it here, or we're not going to get this yet, or do whatever. And sometimes I feel like it's really hard to come to terms with this, like, well, I want it. I want that. I want that. And it's like, okay, that's just not how it works. Like you have to stay within the restrictions, and that can be really challenging at times.
Yes. No. And I think that those like feelings, because we built a house and moved in November of 19 before like the world changed. And we went through we had about a 12-month build, and we like kind of put all of our dreams out there. And then we had to back down to what our number was. And and I'm with you. I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, we'll get a cheaper pizza oven later. But I had this vision of like this whole like pizza oven out in our porch, like all this stuff, which again, it's first world problems, but it's your dream in your house. And so cutting those, I think that emotion is so real and valid, because of course everyone would love to have what they want. But I think the problem is when the behavior trumps that. And for some people, they continue to spend above their means and continue. And then they end up with a lot of stress. I mean, the studies that show the amount of sleep that people don't get because of money stress, the amount of marriage fights that people have because they have extended themselves so much because of those emotions. it's caused more harm than the pizza oven ever would have, right? So it's so hard to do it. And I think it's okay to say like, that hurts and that stings. And I don't like that because I don't either, right? It's not fun. But really making sure, that emotions don't take over in the process, because that's when I think people can get into a lot of trouble financially.
Yeah. So what do money conversations look like now with your husband?
Yeah. So Winston and I guess it's 14 years in December. I was like, how long have we been married? So it's been about 14 years. And honestly, not that we're perfect at it. I mean, but we very much, I will say the budget, it helps because he has his line item. I have mine. He can go hunt or do his stuff that he wants to do, and we agree upon it. And so, we talk every month before the month begins, and our budget conversations are very short. We have an app that we use every dollar. And so we literally look at it and we're like, okay, so this month the girls have 2 camps. Let's put that in here. You just kind of go through your calendar and see, okay, what is life looking like? What dollar amounts are associated with all of this? So now, but I mean, again, that's been 14 years. So if you're just starting out doing this, it can be actually a very contentious subject for a lot of couples. It's one of the leading causes of divorce in America is money fights and money problems. So it really can be very emotional. So for us right now, we still, we've done what we talk about at Ramsey, the baby steps. So like we're funding retirement, we've paid off our house, like we're generous, like we're doing all of that. So at this point now I've learned like we can't stop having goals though. So like we want to do a pool. So we've been talking and we've been saving for about 2 years to do a backyard whole thing because we couldn't do it when we built in 2019. And that was one of the things. And so we had to come back and do it. Yes, that's right. So so for us, it's still like, hey, here's goals that we want together. We dream together a lot and say as a family, here's where we want to be. And if that includes money as a tool to get there, to get the thing, then we talk about that and say, okay, what sacrifices do we have to make here? What decisions are we making here to get to that goal? So right now in our state, that's kind of where we're at. But again, that's been over a decade of doing this together. But for couples out there, if someone's listening and they're like, oh my gosh, I don't even know how to talk about this. I always tell couples to start with the why. Like if you want to get on the same page with your spouse, why? What is that for you? Is it out of fear because you feel like, oh my gosh, if something happens, are we going to be okay? Is it because you're not in the know? Maybe he does everything or she does everything and the other spouse isn't and they're doing it solo. Is it because you feel like you guys are working so hard and you have nothing to show for it? Like there's a reason or even just honestly, the intimacy that's created, the unity that's created in a marriage when you work together in any aspect of life, but money as well. So I would say to always start with that why with your spouse of like, hey, I want to, maybe create some new habits and actually like do a budget together and be on the same team and see each other as one. But those can be hard. So I don't fly over that lightly because if you're set in your ways, sometimes it's a hard thing to change.
Seriously. I mean, I think just like that open communication, I just think of some conversations that Chris and I have had recently and just kind of being like, hey, like, let's put feelings aside really fast and just talk like through some logistics or here's some like my must-have list and your wish list, like let's compare these and then bring it back together. Like, is this actually possible? I feel like whenever I've been able to be like, okay, so maybe we don't need that. Like, let's talk, talking it out has like helped us so much just in some things related to budget. And it's, I know that can definitely be hard though, to have those conversations, especially if somebody is like a big spender and it's like, this is my fault that the credit card is over this month. Like,
Right. Oh, totally. Yeah, for sure. And I would say too, when you are talking about it, to acknowledge that that your spouse has strengths around money that you may not, right? So like I always laugh, Winston allows us to actually have money because I would probably spend everything and be broke. So I'm like, that's very true for him. And he's very much a long-term thinker and very a realist and all of that. And he makes really wise decisions. And I'm always like, but I bring the fun. And so the strength that I bring is, to enjoy life and to loosen up and we can enjoy our money and have fun with it. So again, there's a humility to say, hey, they can actually bring something to the table that I can learn. And in that too, I think it's just a loving way to talk about it. But I think that's a great picture of even you and Chris. I'm like, just saying things out loud is a step. Because for a lot of couples, and again, not just with money, it's with a lot of things in marriage, that it can be so easy to say, I'm not going to bring it up because it's going to cause X, Y, and Z. And there's a point of that being a habitual part of marriage that you just sweep it under the rug. And then you look up and you're like, oh my gosh, we're like not connected at all. Like, I feel like we're running on these two separate tracks. So pushing through the uncomfort and the conflict, which actually can bring a lot of unity and intimacy, it is worth it, in my opinion. And I think you win financially so much faster when you're on the same page.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Okay, so if someone has typically been more reactive than proactive with budgeting, what are 3 steps where you would tell someone to start planning a budget?
Yes. Okay. I would say, number one, you want to do it before the month begins, because that's going to allow you to be proactive for the month. If you're throughout the month and just kind of spending on impulse and it's that reaction, that means you probably don't have a plan that you can go back to and say, hey, here's what I had planned out. So I always teach a zero-based budget, which is your income minus all of your expenses, including giving and saving, should equal 0. So every dollar coming in is assigned to a category. And of course, the categories of like food, shelter, utilities, transportation, like your big needs, actual needs, will be up top. And then you prioritize down and say, okay, so when your paycheck hits, you know exactly where it's going to go. And so that helps on that proactive side. I would also say don't give up, because it takes about 90 days to get a budget to work. And if you've lived in a reactive state with money, it's been spontaneous. So when things don't work, it's probably gonna be natural for you to spontaneously stop and say like it's not working. So give yourself 3 months, give yourself some time. And then the third thing I would say too, it's probably more of like the heart issue around money, because I think money magnifies a lot of who we are. But ask yourself why. If you really have trouble with it, which I'm in that camp, I have to ask myself a lot of the times, okay, why? Why am I feel like I need this in this moment? What's causing me? I mean, you can even feel like a level of adrenaline, even of like, ooh, okay, I'm gonna, I'm gonna plan this will be great. Like what is causing that in you? And I think asking that question is helpful. So like for me, for instance, there was a stage of a lengthy time in my life where I very much was like, oh yeah, I want this, probably because of what people think. And so I have to ask myself, if I bought this and nobody sees this purchase, do I still want it? Like, is it really for me, or am I fishing for something else? Is it because I'm bored? And I do this, Brittany, too. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like at night and I'm just, oh, that's fun. Okay. That's something, it's excitement. There's like a level of excitement to buying something. So I would check that. I mean, so just kind of start asking those more heart questions of what's causing me to like want to get this right now, because it's doing something to you, right? It's fulfilling something in you. And stuff is not bad. I always say it's okay to have nice stuff. Just don't let your nice stuff have you. And I think it has you when you go into debt for it, because it owns you at that point. You don't really own it. And number 2, it has you when your joy or your contentment is wrapped up in that thing or just stuff. Right. And so there's a strength to be had to say, okay, I have the money for it. And I think, not perfect, but pretty content, right? If I don't have this, like I can live, right? Even with the house stuff, like I can cut it. Like, oh, I know we can. Like there's a maturity there to say that, but yet you can still say yes to stuff, and that's okay. So I think some of those kind of checks and balances with you, in your heart, or for people listening, I think is really a big part of personal finance.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, you mentioned that your husband and you like check an app. Tell me about what apps you use that help make budgeting a little bit easier.
Yes. So we have Every Dollar. So it's our budgeting app. And we have the same like just login information. And it's great because it ties to your bank account. And so when you swipe, that debit card transactions just come in and you drag and drop them to each category. So it's like, we have a Costco line item, a grocery line item, a restaurant line item. We have everything kind of listed out. So as these transactions hit, one of us can just sit there and track them. And we can see how much we have left in it. And it's just a place, again, to kind of just keep everything. So we have that app we use. We both have like our checking account app, like with our local bank. We have that. We have Ally Bank too, that we use for like high yield savings and stuff. So that, so there's kind of, some of that banking world that we definitely use, but Every Dollar, the app, is what we use. And it's so helpful.
I feel like my husband would be into this app. I'm going to have to ask him if he's ever heard of it.
Yes, I will. I can send you the information for sure.
Okay, so I've heard you say budgeting is more about intentionality than intensity. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So again, I think it kind of goes back to this attitude of how we look at it, that some people can use the budget to like weaponize life. And they're like, well, it's not in the budget. Or with the kids, and it's like, it's not in the budget. It's like this like negative force. And people can be so legalistic about it that it ends up like sucking the life out of their life. Right.
Yeah.
So there's like this intense version of it that I'm like, no. That's not it. That's not the purpose of it. The purpose of it is to be intentional. So you actually have a game plan. You know what you're working towards. And so that intentionality piece. And again, this could be with retirement or looking at investing. If you have a big goal of, a home, like whatever the thing is that's out there, you want to work towards it. And people that win in life in any area, right? Whether it's their parenting or their marriage or their job or, friendships, like whatever it is, they're proactive and they do something. They don't just sit back and let things happen to them. And so there's about, with your money, it is doing things on purpose. And so the budget allows that intentionality to be there. And it just gives you peace too. Yeah. It's just like, okay, there's a plan. We're good.
So when would you suggest somebody start investing?
So for investing, we always say to be completely debt-free, but your house.
Okay.
So for a lot of people are starting there. And so that's student loans, credit card debt, car loans, all of it. So be debt-free, have 3 to 6 months of expenses saved in the bank. So this is really your emergency fund, your fully funded emergency fund. And so all of those 2 steps on average take people about 3.5 years to do, to pay off all their debts, to get some savings. And then I always recommend 15% of your income going into retirement investing specifically. So we won't get too nerdy on here, but like Roth IRAs or your 401k at work or 403b if you're a teacher or work for the government. So these like kind of retirement plans. So 15% of your income there. And then also if you have kids, the next step would be for college. If you think that that's in their future, start saving for college, and then paying off the house would be the next thing to do.
Yeah. That's great. Okay, so let's get into some discussion on budgeting and our love of fashion. What would you say are some staple pieces that you have in your closet?
Oh, man. Okay. I always have like 2 or 3 great pairs of jeans. I have more jeans than that, but like if I had to limit, I'm like, so I have like my like nicer ends. I've got my like, crazy fun ones that like out on the town. And then my medium, with some holes or whatever. And I'm like, oh yeah, I can pull those off for work. So a level of, a jean selection for me, I love. I love you may have even said this to me and during our Instagram live, you may have, but a white t-shirt. So I have 2 that have like fun sleeves to them. And I'm like, and I can pair those with skirts, under blazers, just with jeans, all of it. So like I have 2 nice, just plain white shirts. I have like a good black blazer that's longer that I can like roll up the sleeves. So I'll throw that on sometimes if I need to. So black blazer would be, and then I have probably, I would say I would want at least one for me, maybe just because of my job and my work, but like one great like sheath type dress.
Yes.
So like a jeweled color, something like, that I can have. And I can even wear those to like a wedding or if I'm doing a media interview or whatever, but to have some good staple, like those kinds of dresses, are good for my closet.
The good staples.
And then, you know what I've gotten into, Brittany? It's not in my closet. It's like in my drawer, technically. Good pajamas.
Yes.
I'm like, I love a good pair of pajamas.
There's something to be said about like feeling really good when you go to sleep.
Yes. I'm like, this is a matching set. I'm not mad that I'm going to bed in a matching set.
It's so true. What would you say is the last like trendy outfit that you bought?
It was you, Brittany. Okay, it's because I'm a 2-piece person now.
Yes.
I love it. Give me a 2-piece all day.
2-piece set. Yes.
This is the one, which I don't even know where I'm going to wear it. I don't even have, but it's the one sleeved. It's kind of like a bunched with the flowy skirt.
The skirt.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Oh, it came in the mail. I put it on. My husband was like, should we go out to dinner tonight? Like, and I was like, I don't know if I can wear this around Nashville. I guess I could, but it's very beachy to me.
Yes.
And
okay, but
it feels trendy.
It is trendy. I love though that the skirt is like a really good skirt by itself. Like you could wear some of the other blouses from your closet in with that skirt, and it's lined so it's not see-through, but then it comes with that cute little like more trendy top. I feel like that's what makes it trendy. And then you can actually use the skirt later.
Yes. Okay, that. And then my other two piece I got from you was the striped loft. It has the blue and white stripe.
I just wore that out of town the other day.
It. Oh,
it's so cute. It's very comfortable, and just like, I love pieces like that too, where it's, you feel elevated, but it's easy to wear. Like easy to wear is something I think is like, you really need to make sure with every outfit that it is easy to wear.
Yes, absolutely. Because the shorts, even I've worn the shorts with just a white tank a few times too, you know, and so I love that one. So.
Okay, what would be a more elevated piece that you would say is worth investing in?
I mean, a good pair of shoes, like a good nude heel or something, is where I would go, like nicer quality. Because I would wear that. I would wear that a lot.
All the time.
I would say a good pair of shoes, a heel, a nice. Gosh, I mean, I say that the staple piece of the dress, I would spend more money on like a nice dress than like a top. Do you know what I mean? So like,
if you have like, if you're a dress person or a top person, like that feels like a good place to invest too, like a statement.
And then a good jean jacket, which I got mine from like Able, so it wasn't like too expensive, but just one that like it's actually good quality, because it's lasted me, gosh, probably four years maybe now at this point. A long time, but I can throw that on with anything. So I do love that.
Totally agree. Okay. Do you organize your closet in a certain way that helps you shop your closet if you wanted to do that? Or how would you go about organizing?
So I'm not the most organized person, but I kind of am in my closet. So I have like all my long sleeves, one area, short sleeves and tanks, and then dresses and pants like on the other side. So so for me, yes, it is helpful, because I'm like, I can go and look at skirts or pants, like the bottom, and then I can go over to the top. And then if I'm really good, and I'll kind of get crazy sometimes, I'm not always like this, but I will try to like even color coordinate, Brittany. Like I'll try to do like colors and then like whites and darks.
Yes.
I mean, that's like a solid 20% of the time though. So if you walk in my closet 8 out of 10 times, it's not like that, but
I always
having the sections though is very helpful for me, with jackets, even, you know, all of that. So
I think it's interesting. I always tell people, like, obviously my job, I'm like showing outfits all the time and telling people like, this is where you can buy this. It's on sale today. Yay, yay, yay. But so much of what I'm doing is trying to just give people outfit inspiration to where they can go back to their closet and be like, well, I have a skirt like that and a top like that. Why don't I go put that together? And I always tell people it takes a little bit of time on the front end, but going into your closet and kind of like looking around and putting some outfits together that are those like fail safe. Like, so when you walk in and you're like, I don't have anything to wear. It's like, well, you have these 5 things that you love. Like you always have those you could pull from.
That's so good.
Or if it's a time where you're like, I really want a new outfit, like I'm really just like need to spend some money. And it's like, well, maybe actually go in your closet and put together some outfits you haven't worn together yet. And that could like fill your need of, instead of spending money, you just use that time to put some outfits together. And that can kind of give you that same like joy as like a new, like actually buying a new piece of clothing would.
Yes. Oh, 100%. And when stuff just gets lost in the closet and you forget about it.
Yeah.
And then you see even something like you post and you're like, oh my gosh, I could do that white shirt with that skirt that I haven't worn for, like, where is that? And you put it together. Yeah. And you're like, oh, I feel cute. It's like, this feels good. I like this. I like this feeling. Brittany, what do you do with all your clothes?
I have so many clothes. Well,
I always think about that. I'm like, man, I wonder what she... Yeah. Do you, because you don't rewear, I guess in real life, do you rewear
I
stuff?
do. I actually have like some stuff that if I'm not going to be on camera, I have like a whole like section of my closet that's like, if I'm not going to be on camera, this is like what I'm going to wear. And it might just be like favorite dresses that I got that I'm just like, I have to keep this. I love it so much. I have this one dress from H&M from probably 3 years ago that I wear all the time. It is like my one fail-safe dress. If I don't have anything to wear, I always go back to this one, and it's so great. But for the rest of the clothes, it's kind of interesting because, I am in the business of selling clothes as well. So it's kind of a missed opportunity if I am on camera or talking on stories and I'm not wearing something that somebody could just buy.
Oh, sure. Totally. Yeah.
Because every time I'm on stories, we get a DM. Where's that shirt from? Where's that dress from? And so it's like, I want to be able to send that to people because, if you put a bunch of people in a group, like some are just like, hey, I'm ready to swipe my card. Like, we're good to go. Yep. So I do feel like I try to rewear things or make sure that I have a good amount of pieces that are like stocked. So people do see me re-wearing stuff because everybody's norm isn't to just have like a huge closet of overflowing new arrivals all the time.
Sure, totally. Yes.
But once items sell out, it is harder to like rewear them. And so for me specifically, because this is so unique to like my line of work, but a lot of times like I give clothes to my mom or my sister-in-law, the girls in the office. There's a few of them that wear the same size as I do. And so I'm like, hey, if there's anything that comes into this like section of the closet, like it's free game, feel free to take whatever you want.
So good. Yeah.
One of my assistants recently, like, I told her she had like free range at a bunch of stuff, and she went on vacation with her family, and like every outfit was something that had like been in my closet. And I was so like excited to see these dresses, like going to the beach and like having a vacation, I loved it so much. And then I sell some of it on Poshmark and donate 100% of the proceeds to charity.
Oh, that's cool.
And a lot of times it's people who are maybe missed out on it, or they couldn't get it at the price the brand was originally selling it for, or it was sold out. And so I'm like, I feel like it kind of is helping people to be able to like actually get their hands on the clothing. And then we are able to donate it to charity. So I feel like that is kind of a fun trade-off. And I've always really enjoyed doing that, but it's definitely not normal to have the amount of clothes in the closet.
No, I love it. I would switch jobs with you for a little bit.
Yeah. It's so much fun. I mean, I love it. And I think if I'm ever in like a negative headspace, I always just go in my closet and like find joy in putting stuff together, outfits together. I get creative by like touching the product and like, okay, what this texture would really go well with this like silk skirt. How can we make this work? And then next thing I know, I'm like out of my funk. So it's like,
because it's a creative outlet for you.
Yeah.
Yes, totally. Yeah. Oh, that's so great. I love it.
Okay. What about, I have some friends who love spending money on their children and on their children's clothes. Do you have any tips for like where we can save money when we're buying stuff for our kids or their clothes?
Yeah. So I have an 8, almost 6, and 3-year-old. So that's kind of like the season of life we are. And so if you asked me 7 years ago when my daughter was 1, I would be like, oh my gosh, I got all the smock and I did like all the acclimate. I mean, I did the whole like probably more Southern mother dressing. Yep. And I would get, honestly, a lot of my stuff was hand-me-downs from friends. I would even go to, like, we have great consignments places in Nashville, like these like private schools will do them like twice a year. And it's all these moms that like have all this stuff and you can go and get it like a fraction of the price. So I did that a ton. And of course we have like some really sweet little boutiques around Nashville too. So I'm like, if I was going to go spend some money, I'd probably go to one of those. So that was kind of I would say though, from the savings end, for sure, people want to get rid of their kids' clothes. So if you have a friend and you like love their kids' style and they're still kind of not in the rough and tumble stages of kids that we'll get to in a second because stuff gets ruined. I would ask and be like, hey, if you need to like get some of those clothes off your hands, let me know and I'll take them or I'll buy them from you, and of course it'd be at a fraction of the price or consignment and all of that. So that's a great way. But honestly, now in my season with my kids, my girls, my sweet little smock wearing daughter is now 8 and she wants athletic shorts and t-shirts and like high top tennis shoes. And like, she's like running her game that way, which is awesome. So honestly, I'm like, I now spend less on kids' clothes now with 3 kids than I did honestly with 2 baby girls that I had at first. So, I know I'm like Old Navy,
it's
Target,
so
all
hard.
of it. It's so hard. So I just am not, I thought I would be more of the mom that had more of a put together looking family, but I feel like we look homeless half the time you see us out in public because they like dress themselves. And I'm like,
well, and you got to give them freedom to, it's like this double-edged sword sometimes.
Totally. So honestly, I've kind of given up on the whole kids' clothes thing. I kind of just let them go and I don't buy very expensive clothes. And then my sister, she had 2 boys. So for Charles, my 3-year-old, she's given me, oh my gosh, Brittany, bins and bins of the sweet little alligator.
Yes.
What's it? The applique. Yes. All of those, like all the little, sailboats and all that.
Sailboats, all the like cute little boys. I know I have some friends who have boys and they're just so dressed so like handsomely. Yes. Like these little boys are just so like sweet and put together.
I know. And I love it. Button up, a little boy in a button up is just so precious.
I know.
So he has some of those, but honestly from my sister. So I'm probably not the best. I would say honestly consignment. Like if you want to go the higher end and you don't have the budget for it, especially if you live in a bigger city, drive to the wealthy suburbs of the city. And I'm telling you, those moms, they will just unload all their nice clothes to you.
Love it. Okay. What about the men in our lives? How many ties do guys actually need? It's like that. Like, I'm sure your clothes budget is different than Winston's clothing budget.
Yes. Yeah, Winston's not, I shop for Winston. I'm like, I'm the one that's like, I find stuff and I'm like, oh, good. You'll love this. You'll love this. So yeah, he is the most low maintenance. Like, he'd wear like REI, like total dad style.
Well, all day. Right. I feel like Chris is a good sale shopper too. Like he likes a bargain. He likes to he gets nice things, but he also is like, oh, I got these Paige jeans on sale. Like he loves like the thrill of the hunt too. Or if he knows like, well, I can get that on sale, he's going to wait because he's like, I just would prefer to get it on sale. I'm like, that's fair.
You're like, that's great. I know. Yeah. So he has like 1 or 2 nice suits. I remember we bought those in the last few years because it was like, okay, we need the like Winston, we gotta kind of up the suit game, for weddings or parties, Christmas parties or whatever. So I remember spending some money doing that. But honestly, he is like, he's not a shopper.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm the one that spends all the clothing money.
Yeah. But I guess maybe it goes back to like, if you are a shopper and your husband is also a shopper, like that's like got to be open conversation that you have when you're creating the budget. And it's like, okay, we got to put some parameters around like this for both of us. Yes. Or, hey, I'm a real shopper, but like husband's really into playing a lot of golf. It's like, okay, like where we got to like be open communication.
The hobbies thing, that's where his mind always goes is like, yes, golf or hunting, or he's like doing all this gardening stuff right now in our yard. So he's like going to Home Depot like every other day. So like, it's all this stuff, which is all great. But I'm like, this is your clothing, quote unquote, clothing budget where I spend on clothes, he spends elsewhere.
Yes. No, I love that. Okay. Let's talk about a few tangible ways to save money. Tell us a little bit more about your homemade kitchen cleaning supplies.
Yes. Okay. So I did this episode on my show probably like 4 years ago.
Okay.
And there was in the episode, I think there was probably 3 cleaners that we did that were you make homemade. Yeah. And it's, I think obviously health wise, it's like free chemicals, all of that. And it's so inexpensive. And the one that I keep constantly, all my stuff is the cleaner for my kitchen counters. So we have a lot of counter space in our kitchen we built. That was one thing. I was like, I want some islands. I want counter space. So we have a lot of counter space. So we would go through so much because we have to, with kids, I'm like, you wipe down counters all day.
All the time. Yeah.
So this cleaner, it is my favorite. So I got like a glass squirt bottle thing. So it's like half, I'll have to get the specific measurements for you if you want to post later.
Yes.
Because I may mess it up, but it's like, I know to fill it halfway up with water.
Okay.
And then you fill about that much with rubbing alcohol.
Okay.
I think that's what it is, rubbing alcohol, right? Not peroxide, but rubbing alcohol.
Yeah.
And then this type of soap, it comes in a huge thing, but you don't use a ton, maybe 2 teaspoons or something of a soap. And then I get lemon essential oils.
Okay.
And you do like 10 drops of lemon in it. I think it was water. I was like, yeah, it's those 4. And you close it up, shake it up, and it smells delicious.
Yeah.
It smells kind of clean, but I like that. Yeah.
Yes.
But I would rather smell like that than like something else. So
right.
It's very clean smelling and fresh, and it gets up everything. It gets up everything. I can't remember the name of the actual soap that's used in it.
Let me know.
It's a specific kind. I think it's a pretty like high intensity soap that you use. But it's like my favorite. I squirt that thing all over my house. It's so great. And I refill it, Brittany, like all the time, because I'm like, we spend so much on that. So that was one thing. There's a shower cleanser. I don't have it memorized for inside your showers if you're doing that, or even toilets. More of like a disinfectant cleanser. But yeah, and self-admitted, I'm not the like quote unquote, like I'm not looking for all the clean ingredients all the time in all my stuff. So I'm not hyper focused on that. But it is so nice where I'm like, okay, it is really it's healthy.
Yeah, it's clean,
safe, and it's so inexpensive because I don't use a ton of the stuff. It's not that much to refill it. So that's been huge.
Yeah. All right. So let's wrap this up. And this is one question that I'm just excited to hear your answer, because I think that some people actually feel like this sometimes. But what would you tell the women who have money shame or anxiety around money? What would be some advice that you would give somebody listening today?
Yeah, I would say control what you can control. And so I think there's a lot of things in our world right now that we can't, right? Even with interest rates and inflation, like all this stuff that's happening. It's like we can't control the Fed and Washington and like all this stuff. So what are the things that you can control? And so you can control when your income hits your account. What are you going to do with it? Are you going to use it to further yourself financially and get out of debt, save, have money saved? Like, are you going to use it to bring more peace to your life? Or do you continue down the same road that you're on? And if you're in a spot that you're stressed out and freaked out about money, obviously what you've done has not given you the result you want in life. So you're looking for something different. So yes, I would say control what you can control. I know we keep harping on the budget, but honestly, that will give you a level of control maybe you've never had before, to actually say, okay, here's where money's going, and I have some direction to it. That will feel good. And then number 3, I always tell people, your net worth is not your self-worth. And so much of money conversations today is about how successful you are. And that means of who you are as a person is better, or like whatever it is. Like we put such value on whether it's our stuff or our income or what's in our bank account. And so really unplugging that and just saying, hey, who I am is not wrapped up in the number in my bank account. And so, separating those two things I think are really important, because I think shame can get in our heads and say, oh, well, I should have done this, or I could have done this, or I'm so stupid I didn't do that. Like, these voices in your head, and you have to say like that's happened. The past has happened. But the beautiful thing is that we all have the ability today to start making new decisions towards something better. And I just have seen every income level, every debt level, every story you can imagine, from single moms to people with 12 kids or like whatever. Like I've seen the gamut of people that have chosen to actually take control of their money and find peace with it. And it is possible. So that's my encouragement to them, is don't allow that shame to paralyze you. Actually be able to say, okay, what am I fearful of? What are the things that are keeping me up at night? And make a plan and decisions around those things to change it, because you can. You really can.
I love that. Well, I hope that people listening find some encouragement there, and even take your advice from some of your steps from the beginning of this episode. I think there's so much great information in here. Rachel, just thank you so much for coming on the show today. It's truly such an honor to have you.
Oh, thank you, Brittany. Thanks for having me on. It's always fun to connect with you.
I know.
all the work you do. I just love it so much. So thanks for all the joy you put into the world.
Absolutely. And for our Life with Loverly listeners, we are going to leave all of Rachel's information in the bottom of the show notes so you guys can follow her on Instagram and get some more tips. She shares lots of great information that I know you guys will love to continue hearing from Rachel. So thank you so much. And we will talk to you guys soon.